Hi, friends. Welcome to the third month of Deeper. It's an absolute privilege to have you in the program, and I trust that you're beginning to see some of the fruits of being in a group coaching program with some shared practices. As we go into the third month, just to remind us where we've come so far, we started out just kind of taking a look at our rule of life, and we'll continue to refer back to that. We also established our values, and one of the key things that you want to do is you want to more and more seek to make sure that your values are fully integrated into the various things that you do in life and in ministry. The second month that we were together, and we had the opportunity to write a 5-chapter autobiographical story that was aligned around 5 key time periods with a key event with each one, with a title. And then when we got together at the end of the second month, we envisioned what might the next chapter be, and then what might our life look like if we looked back, assuming that next chapter works out. Now, as we continue to work to set some longer-term ministry goals, and so again, this program is heavily spiritual formation, but one of the things that we want to focus on with our spiritual formation is asking ourselves the question, do I use my unique gifts, the gifts, practices that God has given me, do I use those for a significant portion of my ministry time? And also, as we set goals of creating disciple-making disciples, maybe there's other things that you sense the Lord has put on your heart for long-term goals. The most important thing to do with goals, especially when we're already pastors, is to make sure that we're taking full advantage of the time that the Lord has blessed us with. Now, the goal isn't to literally squeeze every inch of productivity out of our day. That's exhausting. But what it is just to become aware. And this month we're going to focus on becoming a little bit more aware of how we assess the full spectrum of our life, and also how well do we use time. One of those disciplines of self-leadership, of pastoral leadership that we need to get good at is actually our time. So we're going to do 2 things this month beyond our shared practice. The first one is the Wheel of Life exercise. And essentially it's a pie chart, 0 to 10. And in that wheel, you'll see 8 categories, spirituality, and by that I mean your spiritual practices, your personal relationship with God. I separated that out from ministry intentionally because ministry flows out of our spiritual formation, but ministry also requires of us to take on certain roles where our spirituality is ultimately nurturing not our roles so much, but our identity as persons loved by God. And that's a key piece that we want to understand and see in tension. Also, the physical body. How well are we taking care of our body temple that God has given us? Again, the idea is, and I brought this up in the rule of life, is that really part of our rule of life needs to be attending to our physical needs, make sure we get adequate sleep, adequate food, and whatever exercise we're able to do given our condition. Also invite you to take a look at your emotional health. How well do you manage and deal with your emotions, with stress? Where are you at on that category? And then family, friends, fun, recreation, hobbies, and finances. Just give a 0 to 10. Again, we're not going to get into personal stuff so much in the groups. You don't have to worry about if you give your finances a bad score. You don't need to put an explanation for that or anything, but just give yourself a score on where you would grade yourself. And what you're looking for is not necessarily having all 10s in the categories. I mean, that would be awesome. But what you want to look for are where are the 1, 2, 3 places where there are significantly lower scores than another place. That's why they call it the wheel. You want to look for where those flat spots are, or where are the holes in your tire. Now, the second part of the Wheel of Life exercise is just taking a look at that. How balanced is your wheel? And then spend a little bit of time. And this isn't so much goal setting, but this is just to think about what it would look like. Let's imagine that, let's say on spiritual formation, let's say you score, maybe you only score a 6, or spirituality. Imagine what would it look like, what would have to be true for you to get a 10. And for each of those categories, if you were going to set up markers, what would a 10 look like in each category? Now, again, what I'm not going to surprise you with is like, okay, let's make every single part of your life a 10, but we can pick a piece of that to work on. But go ahead along with the exercise, and if you score less than 10 on any category, describe how you would know what it would look like for you to be able to give yourself a 10 in that category. And then maybe there's one or two of those things that you want to work on and improve. Anyway, that shouldn't take a long time to do the Wheel of Life, but that's a good baseline just to see, how balanced is your life? And again, we know in certain seasons things get out of balance, but just in sense, how much integrity do you have in terms of all the different pieces that go into your life? All right, the second piece of Deeper, the project, is we're going to start seeing how well we use our time. And one of the best ways to do that is to spend 2 weeks tracking what you do during your waking hours. Now also record how much time you spend sleeping, of course, but during your waking hours, give yourself an audit. You don't have to micromanage this down into the seconds, but roughly each hour, how are you spending each hour of your day? And you'll find this really helpful and maybe even surprising if you do it 2 weeks in a row. And then take a look at it. Add up your scores for those 2 weeks, and then I would divide the scores by 2. And what you're looking for basically is how many hours. And this is the last sheet. Everybody has 168 hours. So how many hours do you spend sleeping? How many hours do you spend eating, working, time with family, focusing on your health, your church life, and then we'll check out this miscellaneous score. And you might say, okay, where do I put my devotional life in? For this situation, put your devotions in. If you have a devotional life, again, I'm hoping everybody does, but if you have, whatever you do for your spiritual formation, include that with your church number. And that will just give you a baseline. So we'll see what that looks like. And just add it all up, and we'll start out next time reflecting on what you learned from both the Wheel of Life and the time audit, and then we'll spend some intentional time with some exercises to help us maybe create a better time system. So again, everybody has the same 168 hours, and so it's a matter of choosing how to allocate those hours. Now, for the rest of our time this month, again, I would like you to continue to do the shared practices. In the email that goes along where you got this video link, you can see the Psalms. These are the Psalms out of the lectionary. And when there was a choice between Psalms, I selected one of the Psalms over the other one. So we're going to do the shared text, continue to read through those Psalms. How does this Psalm teach me to pray? What jumps out at me? What's landing for me out of this text? What kind of person do I need to become? What images in the Psalms capture your attention? This isn't sermon prep type of stuff. This is straight up Lectio Divina, trying to encounter God through the text and seeing what that stirs up. And just write a few key ideas. Continue to experiment with the journal. Again, if you're not finding the journal helpful, maybe just do less pieces of it. Again, I'm recommending write down 5 things that you're grateful for at the beginning of the day. Journal out what's bothering me. Get it on paper. And then, what key tasks do you need to do that day that would allow you to feel good about your progress in the work that the Lord's called you to? And then in the evening, just assess that. What 3 things can I celebrate today? Where did I sense God working? And then peek ahead to tomorrow. Is there unfinished business from today? Write that down so you can rest and then get after it tomorrow. If you're looking forward to something, write that down as a little reminder. Our next meeting will be the fourth Thursday of the month, and I look forward to serving you. Of course, I'll send out weekly updates. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me at any time, and it's my absolute privilege to serve as your spiritual coach during this season. Blessings.